never expected to reach this age.
What year were you born, Saba?
1925, August 1925. My mother was an angel, what can I do? She was modern and religious. She was very religious, but religious people in those days went to the beach before the World War II. For a modern Jew to be religious, she was as religious as they come. And she was known for that in her area. They say she was a beauty. I didn't know, I couldn't tell, as a son, I couldn't tell the difference. Oh, she had this, she thought yeshiva boys were the greatest. She sent me to yeshiva in elementary school. But after that, she didn't push me into yeshiva. Just wanted me to be religious. I think she would have been happy for me to be happy, that's all. She wanted me to choose a career that I wanted. So I wanted to be a chemist, so she was happy with that.
What did your father do?
He was a businessman. He ran, during the good years, he ran the biggest department store, you might say, outside of the department store center, where they had Strauss and all those very big department stores. And he was doing very well. And I guess you could say he was rich in the 1920s. Then came the Depression, and business dropped to almost nothing. And he said he made a mistake when business started to drop. He figured he wanted to make as much money as before, so he opened another store elsewhere. So then he had two losing stores. And he stuck with his store, paid off all his creditors, and he had the reputation, Willie, they called him Willie pays what he owes. And he by the time he closed up his store, he didn't have any debts. He had paid off everybody, which was unusual, you know. But he didn't have much money when he came out. Hardly any.
Why you didn't become a salesman?
Why didn't you ask me why didn't I become a Catholic priest? You can be honest up to a point, you know. If somebody wants to buy something, so you sell them, you know. Right. I used to stand behind the register at his business, and if somebody wanted to buy something that was not good for them, I almost tried to talk them out of it. But I was told to keep quiet. You don't run a business that way. To some extent, I did what wasn't best for me, but I'm not sorry about that. We had to have some patriots fighting the Nazis in World War II. I happened to find myself, when it's time to get drafted into the United States Armed Forces, I found myself in a position, unfortunately, where I could claim to be studying to be a rabbi, and then I wouldn't get drafted. But I didn't care to make that claim, since even though I was attending a yeshiva university for the education, I had no intentions of being a minister of religion, and I told the truth, so I got drafted. I'm not sorry for that. I did what I thought was right. When I was in basic training in Camp Croft, South Carolina, for 3 months, at the end of every day, I took a trek for a half hour down to the chaplain and went into the back. The chaplain was for all the religions. So I just went into the back where the Protestant minister knew I was coming and put on my tefillin there and davened. When I finished basic training, I was shipped overseas. I wasn't too happy about going into combat, but I knew this might happen, so I was not sorry. It was a 5-day trip, so there was one Friday night. For some reason or other, I didn't hear the notice. They were referring services. And the officer was standing in front of me, and he was asking, is there anybody who can continue with the services? There was a little book, partly in Hebrew. They said, hello, that private over there. So he turned around, and there I was. And lo and behold, I was a chazan for a while. How did it go again? And I sang it out. Yeah, Tov Yad Olam. And the way overseas, the room was packed. On the way over, they were all too anxious to daven. On the way back, they were out of danger, so nobody came to daven. The invasion took place successfully, and France was conquered. Paris was in the United States' hands, but the fighting was still going on in Alsace-Lorraine. That's on the border of Germany. As we went through a town which we had just conquered, that's before I was actually doing the fighting, but people ahead of me had just conquered it, and I went through a town, and the women lined up on two sides of the road as we came through. They didn't stay in their homes for whatever reason, and they all looked glum. This was in the border of Germany, except one woman. She came running out and laughing with cookies for us. So I said, "Why are all these other people so glum?" She said, "This was on the border of Germany. The rest of them probably were Germans, pro-German, and she was pro-French. You know, they were in between. When we weren't moving, there were lots of casualties. Things were static. Artillery was being changed back and forth, and people were getting killed, surviving no more than a month on the average, without getting very far." אני מה שקראו replacement. זאת אומרת, כאשר מישהו נהרג או נפצע, אז אני ה-replacement, היו לוקחים את מקומו. ודאי, זה היה המקומות היותר מסוכנים, בגלל כך היה צורך ל-replacements. אמרו שכל חודש כולם, כמעט כולם נצפו או נהרגו בחייל שהיה שלנו. I once had a chance to kill an officer. I was looking across the valley. There he was standing tall. And all I had to do was aim and kill him, but I wasn't allowed to fire without being ordered to. It could be he didn't know we were there. If I had fired and killed him, they would have found out we were there. So I wasn't allowed to shoot him. So I didn't aim at him. I didn't kill him. But when we finally charged into German foxholes, I was the first. I wasn't looking to be a hero, but I was. I've been reading pamphlets about infantry warfare, and I read that the more aggressive you are, the safer you are. So I wanted to do my bit, so I was the first one to reach the German foxhole. And the man in there, if he had thrown his rifle out, I wouldn't have considered killing him. And but he didn't. He had his rifle on the shoulder, but he wasn't holding on to it. So I aimed at him and decided not to pull the trigger, and then the rest came behind me and took him prisoner. Why didn't I kill him? Well, the murder of the Jews would not have been, would not have been stopped if I had killed him instead of taking him prisoner. They were more valuable as prisoners anyway than being killed because they were questioned. I know one of them who was questioning the prisoners, and he was a member of my shul, and he was drafted along with me, and he was escaped from Germany in 1939, so he knew German. It was his native language. So they assigned him to interrogating prisoners that were taken. So he told me how he interrogated them, how he asked them. He got them standing in front of a tree, and he had a rifle in his hands, and he started to shake it. He said, "I'm getting nervous. You better answer my question, or I'm going to pull the trigger." So that's the job our German Jews were doing. You know, they knew the language. They grew up in it. I'm like this, holding the rifle. The bullet came from on up, entered my arm here, came out here, then entered into my chest. But most of the force was taken out of it because it broke a bone in my left arm. So it didn't go too far into my body. It went far enough to collapse my left lung from the air pressure. So I was breathing on one lung, not understanding why, but I was still breathing. My legs were okay, but I was afraid to jiggle a bullet around on my chest. I shouldn't have been afraid. I don't think it would have hurt him anymore. So the rest of the fellows got up and got out of the area, and I stayed there by myself waiting to be carried out. But they couldn't carry me out because the mortar shells started to fall. Anybody entering the area would have gotten killed. And I was lying flat on my back, waiting for one to hit me directly and blow me up, or whatever. Well, whatever turned out to be a little bit better. The closest one to me was a few feet away, and it hit the ground, and it goes up like this. So at the bottom, a fragment went into my right boot and wound up in my right foot, which didn't do me any harm, any serious harm. And that was as close as it got. Then a tank came along, and I don't know whether the tank scared the enemy or the enemy stopped firing, and that's why the tank entered. I'm not sure. Along, and they stopped trying to kill me. They thought they were firing at a whole company, that they were only firing at me. And along came the tank, and they strapped me to the side of the tank and got me out of the combat area. When I entered, I was a little bit of an idealist, and I used to think, wouldn't it be nice if everybody, all the Jews were Orthodox? When I came out, without thinking of any change, just automatically when I came out, I was saying, wouldn't it be good if all Jews were Zionists?
So what's more important, to be religious or Zionist?
To be a religious Zionist. But between the two after that, being a Zionist is more important. Because if you're Zionist, you're following the religion. After 2,000 years, the Jewish people went from the Galut into their own state. And I see the hand of God in that. If you see the hand in God in that, you're automatically religious, right? And I saw the hand of God in that. Being a Zionist does the right thing, even though he doesn't see the hand of God in that. Being religious and not being Zionist is being dumb. So why are you supposed to be dumb? A Jew is not supposed to be dumb. Or self-serving. A lot of them are self-serving. They don't want to serve in the military. So these are those who become ultra-religious because they don't want to serve in the military are no good. They're not good Jews. They're bums.
How is it to being a great-grandfather?
Oh, I'm proud that they're all, nearly all, strong Zionists.
וזכני לגדל בנים ובני בנים, חכמים ונבונים, אוהבי השם יראי אלוקים, אנשי אמת זרע קודש בהשם דבקים.
One of the most prestigious decorations of the U.S. Armed Forces is the Purple Heart. It is bestowed by the President upon all those who have been injured or died during their military service.
Purple Heart?
Yeah.
That was military.
Yeah.
I got it for being wounded in combat against the Germans. They investigated it afterwards to make sure it was... I was actively in combat against the Germans, and that's how I got wounded. How did I meet Bubby? She used to deny how she met me, but I have no reason to deny it. I met her at a dance. They used to have them in our circles. We had the Polo Mizrahi ran dances. It was a religious organization. And she and two friends were standing at the side, and I heard her telling her friends, let's do something crazy. So that intrigued me. So I walked over and asked her to dance. She was a marvelous person. She was the greatest in many respects. But I would never marry a rabbi's daughter. Let's say, you're a rabbi's daughter?
Yep.
Well, sorry, but life was interesting after that. have lots of accomplishments. I discovered that graphite was hydrophilic 30 years before they found out I was right.
And what that means exactly?
That means that graphite partially attracts water to its surface. They all thought that it repels water, but I discovered it attracts water, that it attracts water moderately. And I found that out with my experiments, and then 30 years later they realized I was right.
And why that is important?
Well, the surface of graphite, people got the Nobel Prize for the electronic properties of the surface of graphite, and this is connected to that, is involved with the ability to send a submarine down deep. And because of considerations of that sort, recently private people sent a submarine down deep, too deep, and the submarine imploded. The Navy was not behind this experiment. They're too cautious. And I worked for the Navy. The body has polymers that are either all right-handed or all left-handed. And I discovered how it could have happened, that should be the case. They discover it, if they could duplicate it in the laboratory, of course, it's a Nobel Prize, but nobody has done that, at least not.
In 100 years.
Yeah, when I'm no longer alive, hopefully they'll do it. I was known mainly for my fundamental research rather than inventions. I don't remember what this was for. There were inventions. One invention, I took part in it, but I didn't, I refused to have my name on it. I didn't want to, I should have allowed him to put my name on it. But I didn't want to decrease the leader in that, decrease his involvement. But I should have let him put my name on it.
What was it about?
Oh, it was finding a crack in a solid surface by creating a vacuum on one side of it. They had the idea, but they didn't know how to do it. So I told them how to do it. I explained it, and they followed my directions, and it worked.
How's it being a grandfather?
How is it being a grandfather?
Yeah.
It's important. It's nice.
What's important about it?
Well, you have importance to future generations, which are your descendants, and they're alive because you were alive.
What would you want your grandchildren to or your great-grandchildren to remember from you?
Well, I remained a religious Jew without being dumb about it. But the final product, that of being a religious Jew, I thought and still think it's a good way of life. Even when I'm no longer alive, it's a big accomplishment to have such a marvelous family.
וזכני לגדל בנים ובני בנים חכמים ונבונים אוהבי השם יראי אלוקים אנשי אמת זרע קודש בהשם דבקים ומאיר את העולם בתורה ובמעשים טובים ובכל מלאכת עבודת הבורא ומאיר את העולם בתורה ובמעשים טובים ובכל מלאכת עבודת הבורא ומאיר את זכני לגדל בנים ובני בנים, חכמים ונבונים, אוהבי השם יראי אלוקים, אנשי אמת זרע קודש בהשם דבקים.